It's time to bust out the PNGs, cause old Dusk is slapping together a video last minute. So you may have heard, but the Switch 2 official presentation happened yesterday. Nintendo managed to create a one-day roller coaster of actually generating a good amount of hype. The system, it looks like it has a lot of little technical improvements, never mind just the performance and power upgrades over the Switch 1, right? As far as its ergonomics, its design, the stand, a USB port, the advanced Joy-Cons with mouse capabilities, right? And on top of that, there was a small but powerful lineup of first-party games, like a new Kirby Air Ride, let's go, that's gonna slap, right? Donkey Kong Odyssey, with the weird Seth Rogen design, and of course Mario Kart 9 or World or whatever. Personally, still don't get why they're putting this out, since they just bothered with the whole Battle Pass thing, the DLC for Mario Kart 8, but hey, whatever, I don't know. It's like Smash, any game you follow up a game with that much content with is gonna seem lesser in comparison unless it has an equal or greater amount of content. The third-party offerings, there was like a little mini presentation for a bunch of studios porting over games that I would assume people never thought were gonna be on the Switch or perform well on the Switch, but with the Switch 2's upgraded performance, oh man, you got fucking Elden Ring, whoa, Elden Ring on the Switch, and you have other powerful games, even if they're downgraded for the Switch. I mean, Elden Ring is literally called the tarnished version. I don't know who the hell thought of that and didn't think it would look passive-aggressive, like insulting. And so everyone was pretty hyped, right? And turns out the thing is launching in June, and unless there's some leaks that I've managed to avoid, I don't know if there was any indication that the Switch 2 was ever gonna launch this soon, right? I feel like everyone was probably expecting closer to the end of the year, right? Holiday season, 2025, early 2026 maybe in March, you know? And then people went to the website and got more details about pricing. The Switch 2 itself is like $450. I can't necessarily say I didn't expect a price increase over the Switch 1. Unfortunately, the precedent has been set from Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, and hopefully the precedent of scalping and limited availability has not also been set here. That's something we don't even know, whether you think it's too expensive or not, whether you're gonna buy it or not. We don't even know if that's gonna be an issue. So a lot of people are upset that the console itself is more expensive. The console, I don't mind. It's not, obviously I'll take it being cheaper if they lower the price or put it on sale or whatever. I'm not saying I want to pay more, but I expected the console to cost more given its upgrades and everything. But it's the games that everyone is all up in arms about, and pretty rightfully so. What was it? Tears of the Kingdom, I think, set a precedent for $70 games, at least on the Nintendo side. I have all the consoles. I have a gaming PC. I just buy stuff on sale. Unless it's a new entry in a series I really like, I don't tend to care about getting new games like when they come out for the most part. And so I have no idea if this is like a precedent on Microsoft or Sony consoles. I'm sure it is. $70 for a game is kind of pushing it. It's kind of pushing it. This video isn't just about games. Leave it to Dusk to make things political, right? So there is going to be some philosophical politics and economics tangents in this video, but not so deep that it'll hopefully take away from the core of this, which is about video games. I think the big thing that everyone is losing their minds about is that Mario Kart World is confirmed to be like $80. I've seen the number 90 being thrown around, and I don't know if that's just like a facetious exaggeration or incorporating tax or whatever, but 90 is a little ridiculous too. Let me get this out of the way first and foremost, because you're probably seeing on screen at some point kind of a screen recording or screenshots that I took of the Treehouse chat in which people were spamming drop the price, lower the price, right? Some people were, of course, contrarians and trolling, raise the price, which, first of all, you know, I'll say it, based chat, fuck Nintendo, lower your damn prices. I'll say that there's precedent for this with the 3DS. They lowered the price on that when, like, they weren't selling the way they thought they would. So there is precedent that it could happen. Whatever. I find that, like, bargaining out of desperation with a company, especially a massive company like Nintendo, is an exercise in futility. The only way this kind of sentiment reaches them is if enough people do it. You know, vote with your wallets, because we are nothing more than social security numbers and bank account balances, right? It's like one of the few ways to get these companies' attention. So I will say based chat for persistently sticking to this drop the price thing. I saw a good 4chan post post about it because a lot of people on 4chan were complaining. 4chan has always been mired in like layers of irony. Like from its inception, 4chan has always had layers of irony that you always had to parse through, like even more so than the modern internet. And the modern internet is irony poisoned to the extent that I just don't know what people genuinely believe and what they're pretending to believe anymore. I don't even know if they know what genuinely believing anything feels like anymore. Nothing matters except being funny and making sure the other guy loses and is laughed at or something, because we live in a fucking anti-intellectual retard playground. But I have seen a couple posts on 4chan. These could be contrarian or troll posts. Take it with a grain of salt. But the reason I'm gonna read these comments to you is because in other contexts across the internet, I have seen people take these positions in a way that I'm pretty sure is not ironic. So the fact that they're being echoed here just adds to our discussion, okay? Please keep the price high. Ideally make Smash Bros. Cost $100. Segregate poor people on the internet now. All the poor Browns and their shit internet can't afford it. Based, my online experience will be better. Again, YouTube, I'm just reading these comments. I didn't make these, okay? I do not care. I can't even say this, bro. Just... oh my god. I do not care if brown retarded turd worlders get priced out. Like, okay, listen, buddy. You want to make this about race and ethnicity and nation, right? In the context of money, we are all subject to the same, we're all on the same side. Just because some third world country is more poor than you doesn't mean that you should embrace the fucking capitalists and be like, yes, I love Daddy Nintendo, baby. I'll cough up $100. You know, most places in the United States have a minimum wage that is somewhere between like $7 and $10, I'm pretty sure. Now, I'll put a map on screen right now. I live in an area where the minimum wage is on the higher end of things because it costs more to live here. Most places, federal minimum wage I think is still like 7 something. In a ton of the Midwest states, minimum wage is, let's just assume an average number of like $8.59, right? An $80 game is more than a day's worth of work with tax. And you could say to yourself, well that's fine, Dusk. Good. What's wrong with that? Because it's not like, it's not essential anyway. I mean, look, I love video games, okay? I'm not gonna say we all need to stop playing video games and focus on what's important. I'm just saying when games are this expensive, people have other needs like feeding themselves or their families, you know, that kind of stuff that matter more. And that's why the price of these games doesn't make any sense for all parties involved, really. On the one hand, the game companies are going to sell less copies, and they're going to have less money. I mean, look, this is fucking Nintendo, so let's face it. Some percentage of people are just going to buy this anyway, no matter how high the price gets. Some of them will even do it out of spite, as we saw in the 4chan comments, right? I don't care if Smash is $100. I'll buy it. I'll buy 3. You know, I don't mean to make any grand sweeping statements about human nature. This is like one of the biggest debates in philosophy. But I do think human nature has at least the potential to be very good or very bad. In this case, it's just people being petty fucks because, I don't know, they're spiteful. They're existentially bored with their lives. They're existentially bored and depressed with their lives. That's what this fucking post-industrial capitalism consumer fucking with 2 O's world is, right? People are existentially bored and they take out their anger on other people instead of the targets that arguably deserve it more, because they can't. I mean, not without pulling a Luigi. All right, anyway, so it's bad for the game companies. It's bad for the players because they're not playing whatever new games. Well, you know, they could pirate it, but let's leave piracy out of this for a moment, okay? Let's assume you're a good guy who's not gonna go do that. You know, let's assume that you don't have a Steam Deck sitting right in front of you that you can see while you're recording the audio for this video right now that has tons... Okay, never mind. As much as you can make the argument that inflation is a factor, and it is, one of the common comments that kept coming up on the stream chat was, oh guys, these are all the tariffs' fault. It's Trump's fault. Trump did it. Blame Trump. Blame the USA. You voted for this. You voted for this. I'll just say this to keep things brief. I don't like Trump. At this point, for sure. Probably not for most of the same reasons that, like, most of you don't like him. I'm not going to elaborate on that here. Possibly not on YouTube at all. So that's something you're gonna have to follow my accounts on like BitChute and Odyssey for the spicier stuff. So, so I don't have a need to play defense for Trump here. I'm just trying to be realistic. I can't say this with 100% certainty, but I'm gonna make a pretty confident guess. I'm going to assume that Nintendo, perhaps through rigorous internal debate, or perhaps they just got greedy and they knew what they wanted to charge for this thing anyway, I'm going to assume that Nintendo already had the prices of the console and the games laid out months ago, before Trump ever uttered the word tariffs, before he even took office again. I'm pretty sure Nintendo, this was already decided. Again, it's not that I care about Trump, gotta defend Trump. So on the one hand, you've got 4chan advocating for higher prices out of pure contrarianism, right? You've got the chat saying, lower the prices, lower the prices. I saw a great post on 4chan that was responding to criticism of the chat and how they were just spamming drop the price. I'm gonna read that to you guys now. Is this the level of thinking you guys are operating at, lol? Spamming the drop the price thing is to make it a meme so people know they aren't alone in thinking prices are too high, and that most people in fact don't like the prices. This will influence some people who were on the fence to side with people who want lower prices and cause them to likely delay their purchases at the bare minimum. You really have to learn more about group dynamics. This comment is absolutely correct. Whether it ends up being a drop in the bucket or something Nintendo is forced to address remains to be seen, right? But this is at least, even for the most normie of normies, at its base level, this is the power of the people. I'm not trying to imply anything. I'm just saying there's more of us than there is of them, okay? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Let's talk about January 6th for like 10 seconds here. Doesn't matter whether you hated it or whether you loved it. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. All I'm saying is, the second all those people showed up, the politicians were being sent into fucking bunkers and locked down in their hotel rooms in DC. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And so there becomes this existential debate where you're like, well, what do games really matter, right? It's just a video game. If times are this tough, if the cost of living is this high, then I need to spend my money elsewhere, right? And this is kind of where I'm going to end the video. This is kind of like the theme that you should take away for today. I want to highlight a comment that one guy on the Nintendo Treehouse stream kept spamming a couple of times in a couple different iterations. Like, we already talked about vote with your wallet. And I already do think, like, technically it'll work, but it's still kind of cucked, philosophically speaking. I want to build on that and read this comment to you. Cost of living is too high. That's true. Take this energy to your local lawmakers, to makers, I don't know why he said it twice, to make a real difference in regards to housing cost and food prices. Another variation of this comment is, $80 is cheaper than what games have historically been in the past when factoring in inflation. Cost of living is too high and makes it effectively expensive. Take this energy to your lawmakers. Let's talk about this for a second. Frankly, money is the problem. Or at the very least, even if you support the idea of money, right, as a representative resource, or bartering and trade, right? If you're okay with the existence of money as a whole, then you should at least be upset with the international banking and credit cartel, alongside massive, explosive, expansive industrialization and capitalism, has created industries that themselves have created the necessity for credit that has fundamentally altered the representative quality and value of money as it has been known, at least in recent history. Money, as you know, is not backed by anything at this point. It's printed out like monopoly money. So at the very least, this system of using money, if not money itself, is flawed. Going to your local lawmakers might work if your end goal is to make little tweaks to the system or have them made for you. But ultimately, your local politicians, your local lawmakers are just extensions of the system. They're not looking to dismantle or rapidly change its fundamental character. They are vanguards of the establishment. If you're on the right path, on the right track, then you are fundamentally anti-establishment. The entire banking cartel that holds the world hostage is a house of cards. It's a really hilariously flimsy house of cards when you get down to it. Like 10% of the population taking all their money out of the banks would crash the system indefinitely, for sure. Now, obviously, people don't want to, risk losing their money because, again, they have families to feed or themselves, right? And that's to say nothing about really cucked shit like utility bills, goyim, or something like that, right? But putting all that aside, lawmakers are the problem. Laws themselves really are the problem. Ethics is something that tells us what we should or shouldn't do, and that comes from reason. Reason does not require the threat of penalty if it's strayed from, right? It should be something you should know to do or not to do. Punishment, you could even argue, well, what happens if people act in an unethical way? Punishment does not have to be tied to the state, which is what laws are. It can come from the community, it can come from the individual. And that is a massive debate, or really series of topics, to be touched on at a later date, as to whether or not people can adhere to ethics and morality, right, without the threat of law or religious code reinforcing some kind of fixed morality, right? The point I'm getting at is I genuinely believe that a society that produces people who are mostly unburdened as much as possible with the greatest degree of both freedom and relative equality of access would ensure people's needs are met. And when people's basic intrinsic needs are met to a satisfactory degree, I genuinely believe they exhibit less antisocial behavior that would require something like punishment regardless of where it's coming from. To tie this to the topic, video games are an outlet for people to feel good. You can make the argument that they're, escapism and whatever, and I do think that's a part of it for a good amount of people, for better or worse, but it doesn't even have to be that. It can just be an enjoyable experience, a piece of art, something that's fun to engage with in its own right. How do we define what is essential in a life, right? Are video games essential to living? By all accounts, no. But is a life with video games a better life than without them? Probably. So games should continue to exist, people should continue to play them for whatever reasons they so choose, and looking to your lawmakers for a solution. The problem we find ourselves in with how money has trapped and controlled us, and debt and credit has trapped and controlled us. It's kind of like going to the warden of a jail and saying, hey, you think you guys can put like a new little 1x1 inch square window in my cell? I really want, this little bit of extra light really spruces the place up, because you're effectively placing the responsibility in their hands. You are deferring to external, heavy air quotes here, authority. You are deferring to external authority. You have the authority. We are individuals. We all have this imagined notion of quote-unquote authority. We all have it. When you do shit like passing the buck to the lawmakers, you're admitting that you have no power. You're admitting that you're nothing, a maggot to be stepped on by the boot of the state, squashed on the sidewalk. And so, to wrap this video up, for now, things like voting with your wallet or whatever, collective actions, bargaining, outcry, right, is at least a passing solution. We must recognize that we are not consumers. We are more than consumers. Some nameless, faceless social security number attached to a statistic and in a database on some government computer, right? We are individuals, right? If we don't give ourselves the credit we deserve, we will sink into a sea of redundancy and, at best, averageness. It's unfortunate, as I've showcased in this video, that there's so much infighting, whether it's just people trolling or whether people are just prone to turning on each other because, cringe and shit, right? Like the sentiment of Nintendo lowering the prices of their games. I don't care if you come from Reddit or 4chan. Like it's just objectively what needs to happen. I haven't really seen it. Like, I could even understand some of the pushback, like the 4chan comments, if this was like a big cringe ordeal, and this is pretty early, so depending on how or if Nintendo responds to this, we're likely to start seeing shit like, some fucking people on Twitter, like autistic or people or like kids or some shit, drawing like Mario holding up a sign and be like, please Nintendo, we love you, we want to play your games, but you need to lower the prices, I don't have enough coins or something. Like when that kind of shit starts happening, then it's like, I don't know what's happened with the internet where coolness, so to speak, is now a factor in picking sides or whatever. Not that it should be pretty obvious which side you should be on. You either work at Nintendo, or you're like, hey, why would I want to spend more for a game, even if you can afford it? Okay, Mr. Scrooge McDuck, we get it. You're fucking loaded, dude. $100 price tag don't hurt you none. Fine, but think about it. Why would you want to spend $100 when you can spend, let's say, $60? Even if you want to justify $70 with inflation, right? Again, I can't say this with 100% certainty, because I'm sure factors like production, at least of physical games, and maybe transportation is baked into a price increase, but how much more than what they were already paying, right? Again, other than inflation. And maybe years down the line, like ongoing trade wars or shifts in geopolitics and the relationship between two different countries. But for now, I'm just gonna say, I'm like 99% certain this is just Nintendo profiteering. This is a brazen attempt to capitalize on the positive reception to the Switch overall, and attempt to capture a larger profit share. Look, I get it, a business ultimately needs to make a profit if money exists, and if money is the resource and reward system that continues, in this case, video games to continue being made, then they have to have some margin they can scrape off the top, right? I just think they're trying to blindly and blankly expand that margin in an unjustified way. And so when we fight amongst ourselves, you know, we're kind of doing exactly what they want. Like I was saying earlier, are video games, or really anything that's, I guess, recreational, that isn't just eating, sleeping, and pooping, is any of that essential for life? No, but what is life without those things? Is it really living? Or is it just surviving? We humans, we're intelligent relatively intelligent creatures, intellectually and emotionally. We thrive when we're challenged, even if those challenges are just digital games, right? We thrive as individuals with varying skills and expertise that benefit from being challenged in whatever ways we choose to take on. If video games are just one more extension of that, then they absolutely deserve to exist. And even if you could picture for a moment like a post-capitalist world or some shit where video game production is nowhere on the scale that it currently is, then I have no doubt there would still be people who enjoy making games and watching people play the games they've made out of sheer passion. And so ultimately, why would you not want to keep that as available, and in this case, affordable as you can? But for now, I would say, for the short to medium term, keep spamming that shit. Drop the price, baby. Pee pee poo poo. No money for you.